10 magic cards rated 137, everybody. Let's see what the first card of the day is. Hopefully we can do better than Veiled Crocodile, which was yesterday's last card of the day. Today it's going to be Unnerving Assault. I don't think we did much better. This is from Eventide. It costs 2 and then a red-blue hybrid for an instant. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-0 till end of turn if you spent blue on this spell. And creatures your opponent you control get +1/+0 till end of turn if you spent red to play the spell. So, interesting little combat trick here, I guess. You can just spend both red and blue to play the spell. And then both of the things happen. Cool little anthem effect, I guess, for 3 mana, but it's still like too much. You know, you just play Burn Bright or some effect like it instead. As far as the -1/-0, though, that's where the tricks really come in, man. Combat math can sometimes be pretty delicate. So, especially if you get both ends of this, I guess it's doing something cool for you. But if you just play it in blue and mono blue or whatever, it's like a pseudo fog effect. It's like a really bad pseudo fog effect. I just don't see any way that this card is actually going to be great unless you get the full value off of it. And that's when your guys are all really fighting it out in the trenches. And, you know, combat math is down to -1, +1 matters greatly. I think it's mostly going to happen in limited. So I don't think the card's good. I'm going to give it a 2.4. That's what I'm going to do to start. That's pretty low, man. We can do better than that, right? Tarnation Vista still holding strong at $2 from Big Score over here. This is it's a land. I guess you could call it a land. It ETB's tapped, and when it does so, choose a color. You can tap it to add a mana of the color you chose, or you can pay 1 and tap it. And for each color among monocolored permanents you control, add a mana of that color. So that means you're tapping a land, and you're tapping Tarnation Vista to create mana. So if you have 2 permanents of the same color, actually for each color among monocolored permanents, right? So you have to have a monocolored permanent of each color. So if you have 2 different colors of monocolored permanents, it will create neutral mana. you put 2 lands into it, it outputs 2 mana. So you have to have 3 monocolored things of different colors for each color among monocolored permanents. I was just giving myself a refresher on the card. Yeah, just making sure. So yeah, you have to have 3 different colored things that are monocolored to actually generate mana. But I guess the idea is it generates up to 3 whole mana net value for you if you've done all of the legwork that's required in this card to actually work out for you. I guess what I'm getting at is that it's kind of a trap. Card's not super good unless it's in exactly the right thing. I guess Commander, it's a little bit better, right? Because it's a little easier to set your board up the way you want to and like keep your guys out. Theoretically, that's what people say. I don't think it's true, but you know, you have a little bit more time to develop the card and actually get it tapping 4 mana. So I won't say that it's horrible. It's definitely better than the first card. We did do better. But I'm still just going to give this like, this is one of those where the floor is terrible and the ceiling is extremely high. But given that the floor is so low, I'm actually going to give it a 4.8. I really am worse than a basic, like most of the time, you know. And 4.8 is honestly a little higher than I want to go. I want to be very mean to this card. I really don't want to give like a 2.4, but I won't do it. We'll move on to the next one. It's Filigree Attendant from Modern Horizons 2. 4 mana, 2 and 2 blue for a star 3 homunculus with flying. It has power equal to the number of artifacts that you control, and if you get the Brothers War Commander set, you can get this nice little retro frame right here. There's a bunch of cards that are just better than this. Do, you know, something pretty similar to this card. But that said, you know, in the right commander deck, it'll still do some work from time to time. You know, when we, a couple of years ago, Brittany got me the Brothers War Commander set for Christmas. We played a few games, you know, and like Filigree Attendant will get up to like a 10 power guy flying. And it's like fun, right? But I won't necessarily say the card is like good necessarily. It's not the tag that I want to put on it. But I am going to give this like I'm going to give it a 4.8 as well. That's too high. It's really bad, actually. This card's like a 4.2, which isn't really bad. It's honestly not. But I just don't want to dip into the 3s here. I think that like some artifact decks, maybe it's because I've had like personal experience with the card, and that's tainting my score here. Because the card really is like in the 3s, isn't it? This card's like a 3.8, realistically. Am I right? I'm probably right. But I'm going to go with a 4.2. Because I kind of like it. I can't help myself. Mountains next. I love this art. It's Rob Alexander art right here from 7th edition. How much is this? $25 if you want the 7th edition foil mountain. That's wild. $25. But it is very pretty. Good job, Rob Alexander. I'll give the art a 7.9. That's really good. It's really good art. Actual next is Skyrider Patrol, only ever printed in core set 19. This is 4 mana, 2 a green and a blue for a 2/3 Elf Scout with flying. At the beginning of combat on your turn, you may pay a blue and a green. When you do, put a +1/+1 counter on another target creature you control, and that creature gains flying until end of turn. Drafty draft boy, overdrafted draft boy, gasoline's burning my drafted draft boy. Initial D reference no one will get. It's really not good, man. Even in drafts, it's like, oh, I got a flyer, but he's like really small for the mana you're putting in. Yeah. It's one of these guys. You see these guys in Limited, right? It's a 2.6. Yeah, it's just really, he's not very good. So we'll move on to Earth Elemental. Look at him. Look at him. Look at Dan Frazier, Earth Elemental art. Just being all fat. You know, all fat and naked. Like, oh, like he caught him doing something, right? He's sneaking out. He's going to get the cookies. He's just like, oh, you got me, boss. You're shining a flashlight on him. He's bad, though. He's just 5 mana 4/5. That's all he does. He's really terrible. 1.9. He's big. He's a big creature. You know, Space Marine Devastator. What are you, man? You're from Warhammer 40K. So who knows what you are. 4 mana, 3 and a white for a 3/3 Astartes Warrior with Squad 2. As an additional cost to cast this spell, you may pay 2 any number of times. When this creature enters the battlefield, create that many tokens that are copies of it. Grav Cannon. When Space Marine Devastator enters the battlefield, destroy up to 1 target artifact or enchantment. Okay, so that's what it's a hill giant that blows up an artifact or enchantment. Cool. And you can get multiple copies if you have more mana. It's not that great. It's okay. It's kind of fine. Like a Reclamation Sage or whatever it's called. You can get more copies of. I guess like in that context, it's kind of better. I don't know, man. I don't want to score it's too high. I'm just gonna give it like a 4.74. 4.74. I wonder if that's too low. Actually, no. I'm honestly being generous, aren't I? I'm being generous today, which is how you should be generally. Endless Detour up next. Oh, man, a lot of people wanted this card to be good. This is 3 mana, Bant colors, a green, a white, and a blue for an instant. The owner of target spell, non-land permanent, or card in a graveyard puts it on the top or bottom of their library. So you can kind of counter a spell with this, right? It goes back on top, but that's good. Trust me, that's decent tempo. You can also just target any non-land permanent, period. It's all right as well, you know. So not so bad. Not so bad. You can also put a card from your graveyard on top of your library, which is cool. Neat stuff here, actually, it's just really, it's endlessly sort of, useful. You know what I mean? It's like a Swiss Army knife of Bant instants. This is neat, but the last word in its flavor text is what it turned out to be. None other than a trap, actually. You know, the card is cool. You know, there's a lot of, like, variants on it. But altogether, is it worth the slot? Is it actually going to be worth the slot a lot of the time? You know, like, there are cards like Venser that cost 4 mana, give you a 2/2 body, and they put a spell on top of their owner's library. Or they put a spell back in their owner's hand or whatever. So it kind of counters the spell and gives you some tempo, just like this does. But it also gives you a body on the table. You know, Remand costs 2 mana to send a spell back to its owner's hand and draw a card. This doesn't draw a card. So, you know, in a way, Remand was almost card advantage because it drew that card. This doesn't do any of those things, and it's just kind of overcosted and hard to cast. So you have to be kind of realistic about how good this card actually is. But again, man, I've always liked it. You know, a second ago, I was like, man, people wanted this card to be good. I am people. I'm one of those people. I want this card to be good. It just kind of never was, but I like it. I still have some love for it, so I'm gonna give it a I'm gonna give it a 4.99. So something along those lines, man. I think it's okay. I still do. But next is Kari Zev, Skyship Raider, yes, from Ether Revolt, man. Look at her serving, too. You'll remember a name on this card more than you remember her name, probably, if you've been playing Magic for a while. 2 mana, 1 and a red for a 1/3 legendary human pirate with First Strike and Menace. All right, 2 mana, 1/3 First Strike Menace, all right. When Kari Zev Skyship Raider attacks, create a legendary 2/1 red monkey creature token named Ragavan that's tapped and attacking. Exile the token at end of combat. So yeah, again, you might, I think Ragavan has eclipsed its master or owner or friend, best friend, I guess. I don't know how you want to, some people are weird about how you refer to pet having, you know, but in any case, Kari Zev's monkey is more famous than Kari Zev at this point by a long shot, you know, but this card was always kind of good. It really was, man. Like, it's 3/4 worth of stats for 2 mana, and it's got 2 keyword abilities on it. It itself is hard to block, which means that it will probably survive the attack step and attack again later, you know, and if it is blocked, then at least it has first strike, so it might take something out with it, like, pretty easily. This Kari is really cool, dude. I miss her. I miss her so much. It's an awesome card. Way more balanced than just the monkey, which, you know, there's been a lot of talk about how ridiculous Ragavan is and a lot of action taken because of how ridiculous Ragavan is, too. So just be happy that you only have to deal with both of them. It's kind of weird that when you have to deal with both of them, it's somehow easier, but it is. This card, though, is like a 4.4, you know. You're just not going to play it in Commander. You're just not going to do that, and it's not good enough to see play in any like competitive environment that it's legal to play in. Like, not even Pioneer. So I wouldn't necessarily try it unless you really want to force pirates, you know. But if Ragavan was a pirate too, I think that'd be better. But it's just a monkey, and like if it were also a pirate, I think that would make the pirates deck way better. But half the time this doesn't even see play in pirates, so it's just like, where does she go? You know, a wandering sailor at this point, with no home, and that's really sad because Kyrie used to be awesome. But I'm done talking about this card. Let's move on to Rick's Mahdi Dungeon Palace from Dissension down here. This is a land. You can tap it for a mana, you know, colorless mana, or you can pay 1, a black, and a red and tap it to have each player discard a card at sorcery speed. So, you know, if you're playing Rakdos, I guess you can throw this into your mana base if you want to, but you've really only got so much room for colorless lands in your deck, right? You probably don't want to discard a card unless you're doing Madness. That's, again, you can try that. But each player discarding a card is actually neat because you come down on 1 card, right? But you also get rid of 3 cards. If you want to look at it that way, you know, you're trading 1 card for 3 cards, but also mana. You have to do it on your turn. It's just the card isn't as good as it may look. You know, you can't just throw it in your red-black mana base and call it a day. I just think that, you know, what are you playing 35 lands in most Commander decks? Does this really make the case? Is this better than a basic, like, a lot of the time? I'm not sure. So I'll give this a 4.5. Yes. That is what I'll do. I had to, like, think about it. Like, am I? Yes. Reev Soul is 2 mana, 1 and a black for a sorcery. Destroy target creature with power 3 or less. It's originally printed in Magic Origins. Why is it sorcery speed? How come it's a sorcery? Doesn't make any sense. This card's like a 3.4, though. You know, it's removal. No, it's like a 3.1. You know, it's removal that doesn't hit everything. It's like super conditional removal at sorcery speed, man. That's not good. But it's also the last card of the day. Will we continue our streak of the last card of the day being kind of terrible? Let's find out tomorrow. Love you guys. Bye.